it's in those dark places that we search for light, and maybe it was dark up here for a while, but these people that have lived in that darkness, who have experiences to share of how they got out of it, there's a lot there. It's full of rich wisdom and a connection to something bigger. And I don't think that I would have found that had I not gone through what I went through.
Exactly.
And I'd love to share that with everybody. I'm Ryan, and I recover loud.
I recover loud. Let's go. I'm on a journey to discover the truth. Living life in recovery is lovely. You got the power in you. Surround yourself with positive energy. Judges hitting people with provocative penalties. Need to make a change. Advocate to change the laws. Prove to people that it's not insane. When you stand behind a cause, I'm here to speak about the pain. Recover loud to normalize the disease that's been killing all my friends and my family. The time is now to let it all go and recover loud. The benefit is healthy people, family and friends that never have to overdose ever again. Never have to plead out to a lesser offense. I'm proud to say that I recover loud. I never thought I could, but I'm so proud that I discovered how to live my life again, controlling my own destiny. I needed recovery, I still need it desperately. Addiction never defined my identity. I recover loud, here to tell my own story. I recover proud, save a life of like 40. I recover loud, yeah, I recover loud. I recover loud, yeah, I recover loud. I recover loud, here to tell my own story. I recover proud, save a life of like 40. I recover loud, yeah, I recover loud. I recover loud, yeah, I recover loud. I recover loud.
Welcome to this episode of Recover Loud. Today I'm sitting in Fort Kent with Ryan. Ryan, welcome to the show. Thanks for sharing your story with us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
I mentioned we're in Fort Kent, but you said you're from Madawaska.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
So have you lived there your whole life?
I moved up here when I was about 11 years old. We originally were from Raymond, Maine, and came up here to be closer to the family.
Okay. Are you an only child? Do you have siblings?
I have two siblings, my older sister, Allison, and my older brother, Tyler.
Okay. And what was it like for you growing up here in northern Maine?
It was a good place to grow up. I feel the move up here at that time was perfect for us. We needed a place where the community was tight, and it just worked out well for us.
Yeah. So did you grow up, with snowmobiles and that kind of stuff? Do you ski? Any of that?
Yeah, I grew up snowmobiling and skiing and snowboarding. It was something that we liked to do as a family.
I mean, up here, there's not much to do in the winter unless you do snow sports. Did you do well in school?
I was a good student. I was a little bit of a joker too, but
Yeah.
I took my schoolwork seriously when I was young.
At what point did you start going down the wrong path?
So when I moved up here, I started to make different choices and hung out with a different crowd of people that I was just curious about what was going on, and I wanted to try something new. It's just a chance for me to make different choices. So I think not long after I moved up here, it was when I started to get into substances and drinking. I was about 12 or 13.
Were you hanging out with older kids or?
I gravitated towards older people. I thought there was something they had that I didn't, and it just drew me towards them.
Yeah. So you started out drinking. What came next? What else did you try?
Not long after I started drinking, I tried pot and fell in love with it right away.
Now, did pot affect you in a negative way pretty seriously?
Sure, yeah. It pretty much sidetracked me completely. I prioritized it over my family, over my schoolwork, over sports, over everything.
Did it progress into anything else?
Yeah, it was kind of the snowball effect. After I fell in love with that, I just wanted more new experiences that were seemingly profound to me.
Mm.
So everything and anything I could find.
What age would you say that you were using more?
I would say within that year, there was a huge increase in my frequency. I would go after school every day to those friends, and it was what I thought about all day even then. And so within the year, I went from, a couple times a month to every week, and then it became every weekend and nearly every day pretty quick.
So what did your life look like at that time?
At that time, I was still participating in sports and involved in some activities that were suitable for me. I enjoyed them. I got a lot from them. Then I started to do less and less of them because my focus wasn't on them, and it kind of just took over my focus completely.
So what sports were you participating in school?
When I was in school, I played every sport and any sport that I could. My favorite was soccer. I enjoyed basketball, everything.
Were you particularly good at any one of them?
At the time, I'd like to think I was pretty good. I pushed myself hard to be good.
Yeah. So using substances and partying took you away from all that.
Of course, yeah.
Did you feel like it was a party, or was it just your everyday normal?
At first, it was like a party. It was exciting. It was something that I thought not many people did, and so it was like a party at first, and then it became pretty quickly a lifestyle.
Do you remember what was it doing for you? Why did you choose to do that stuff?
So for me, at first it was curiosity, but I think reading into it, I believe that I was also looking for a better experience in my life, because everything that I knew, I had to say goodbye to and start new with the move and the family, and so it was quite overwhelming, and I had suppressed a lot of that pain, and I think in order to manage it, I had to numb myself to a certain degree.
Was the pain from missing your friends, losing what you had before you came up here?
So it was a mix of a lot of pains. I even had a hard time coming to terms with my situation. I was adopted very young, and so I didn't know my birth parents. And I wanted to know them, and I had a lot of questions, and it was that combined with having to say goodbye to my old life as I knew it, and to start over, letting go of all those friends, and just embracing the change. It was a lot.
Yeah. Now, was it easy for you to make friends once you got here, or did it take some time?
For me, it was pretty easy to make friends. Being involved with so much activities with the school, sports, I was able to meet a lot of people that had a lot of common interests. So it worked out well for me in the beginning.
Yeah. I actually did the same thing in my freshman year in high school. I moved up here from Massachusetts to Caribou, and it was a culture shock, to say the least.
Yeah.
There wasn't much diversity in the high school. Winters were long, full of snow. They were cold. And at first we moved into a very rural area where it was like 10 miles from town. So I had a hard time making friends because I wasn't able to participate in much because we lived so far out of town. And eventually I started riding my bike to town just to have something to do. But it was it made it difficult for me. So I'm glad to hear that you were able to transition fine in the beginning. But as you mentioned, getting into that wrong crowd, finding the acceptance with the wrong people, brought you to experiences that were detrimental. So how bad would you say it got over time?
So within the first 3-4 years, It was night and day. In the beginning, I was gravitating towards people who were interested in the same things, and after a while, I started to meet people that I knew nothing about what they had interest in, and it just, there was a lot of curiosity there. And my mother being a single mother, it was hard for her to be there for us as much as she wanted to be. So just like you, we were out biking around and causing trouble, and eventually it just got to the point where it was not really manageable. It wasn't really the healthy crowd. And
Did you run into any legal troubles because of your use?
Yeah, when I was about 12, I think, was the first time that I had my bump into the law. And it was me and one of my buddies. We went out and we were just, trying to find thrill, and we decided to do some stuff that we shouldn't have done. And so I had to answer to that. Can't get away with that stuff very, very easily. And
Right.
so it's a very young age when I had to learn to be accountable for that, which I didn't want to do in the beginning. And
So what were some of the consequences of that?
I ended up having to pay quite a bit of restitution for damage that I had done to property of someone else's. And I wasn't in the habit of thinking about my actions before I did them, but I definitely thought about them after.
Trouble later on?
Yeah, very, very early on, I ended up getting wrapped up into the legal system with probation, and it was relative to hanging out with an older crowd that didn't have my best interest in mind, and next thing you know, I'm over my head.
Yeah. And I mean, once we get involved with the legal system, it's hard because everything you do is, the consequences are keeping you in the system. I remember one time getting pulled over for speeding, and the officer coming back and saying, because of my extensive driving record, he had to give me the ticket. That seemed a little backwards to me. Why not give me a break because of my extensive driving history,
Right.
Instead, it's, because you have a habit of this, I have to, and to me, a break might have been the one thing I needed, to turn it around. Instead, it's just another slap, another fine, another ticket, another mark that's going to be held against me next time. At what age did you first decide that you were going to try to get away from the substances and change your life?
Okay, that's a good question. I think when I was around 16 was the first time that I was introduced to a program of recovery. And of course at the time, I was unfamiliar with it, but it felt like something was there that I needed, and I had a strong connection. I was about 16 years old. And then about, I knew then that I needed help. I probably wouldn't have admitted it out loud, but I did need help then, I knew it. And it took many years before I started to seek my own path of recovery. A lot of the times before that, it was kind of mandated, or I was kind of pushed towards it, and unwillingly a lot of the time, but I thank God for that now.
So as a 16-year-old, what kind of program was that you were introduced to, and what were some of the things that entailed?
So that was a 12-step program, Alcoholics Anonymous, and that program entailed admitting my powerlessness over my addiction and my alcoholism, and then it also entailed accountability and believing in something bigger. And those steps were crucial for me.
Yeah, did you end up having a hard time accepting any of that?
Of course, yeah. I did not want to admit my powerlessness.
Yeah, at 16, I can't imagine. That was an easy thing to do.
It was hard. But then I kept trying to do it by myself, and it wasn't working. I felt like it just got harder and harder, and it compounded, and I realized how powerless I really was.
You know, as teenagers, we definitely don't want to admit that we are not in control. You know, so I'm sure that was a struggle. So eventually you did decide to go back out and start using it again.
Oh yeah, many times. I'd been in and out of different residential treatment centers, you know, incarceration.
When was the first residential treatment?
The first rehab that I ever went to was Day One in Hollis, and I was about, I think I turned 18 there.
When was it that you finally found the sustainable recovery that you're in now?
Well, I would say about 3-4 years ago, I kind of emerged into the program again. You know, in the beginning it was kind of external forces that pushed me there too, but then I realized at this point that if I wanted to keep living this way, then all I had to do was continue what I was doing. But if I wanted to get out of it, then I needed to make changes, and I needed to take hold of my life.
So what did life look like for you at that time when you finally made that decision?
At that point, I had gone from being homeless to being incarcerated, and then, you know, wondering about my future, if I was going to be there for the long term. It felt like I was, and I had to decide to pursue a better path. I had to make a lot of sacrifices to do it.
Yeah. So, I mean, from 12 to 25, I'm guessing, that's a long time to have the coping mechanism that you got familiar with. You know, the drugs and the alcohol. It seems like it was ingrained in you. You know, that's what you knew. So to turn it around and realize that everything you knew is what was hurting you, and you had to do something more. You mentioned that it was kind of pushed on you at that age. Was that coming out of incarceration and a requirement of your probation or parole?
Yeah, oftentimes it was court mandated. You know, my family also pushed for me to find a route where I would have better results than I was having. They wanted me to get better.
Yeah. And so what was it that it finally took to get you to where you are today?
So, I mean, at the worst of it, I was killing myself, you know, on multiple occasions within a couple of months. I had a few overdoses where they had to bring me back by defibrillating me and Narcaning me, and at that point I had to really see the situation for how it was, which was hard because my family was suffering more, and I was suffering, but I was also, you know, numb for a lot of it, and so I didn't get to see the pain that it really caused them. And when I saw that, and I saw my family falling apart, you know, simply because of my choices, I knew that it was my responsibility, and I didn't want that life for myself anymore.
Yeah. And when you're talking about the pain your family was going, and the suffering of your family, you're talking about your mother, your brother, and sister.
Yeah.
Have you had romantic relationships?
I have. So I was with my old partner for about four years, and we had a daughter, and she was a huge eye-opener for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was nowhere near ready to be the father that she deserved. So that was a huge factor in me recovering. I wanted to be a father that she could be proud of, and there was a long road ahead.
Did using destroy that relationship?
It did. Yeah, we actively used together and did a lot of exploring together, and it was super exciting in the beginning. And then everything that previously seemed spiritual was becoming the downfall of us.
Yeah.
And it was just a terrible experience to have that all fall apart.
Yeah. And, last year I was divorced from my wife of almost 25 years, just over 25 years. We used together for damn near 20 years. Of course, before we hadn't used, either one of us. We started together, and thankfully we ended together, sharing the same recovery date. And we tried it in recovery, to make it work. And what we found was, it was using that was keeping us together, as well as causing us all our problems. So in the end, it was best for both of us to go our separate ways. But it was the biggest struggle to get better in that relationship, personally, was that whatever decision I made affected the other person.
Of course.
When I admitted that I was using, that meant that the other person had to also either admit or deny it all, which is hard to do. And thankfully, when I finally came out and admitted that I was an addict, it gave her the opportunity to do the same and to get the help that she needed. And she's doing well on her own today. So I'm glad that gave her the opportunity. In those relationships, it's really difficult, for one to get help without the other. And, to make those decisions, you have to consider the other person. And a lot of times what that does is it keeps us in the shit, So thankfully, that's gone the other way. So how old's your daughter now? And do you have a relationship?
She's going to be 7 in April, and I do have a relationship with her. I am connected to her where she is, and she's with some amazing people.
Great.
And that was a tough decision to make for me in the beginning. I just wanted to take her home with me, and fought, with everything I had to do it. And I had to be honest with myself. Would I be giving her a good life if I did take her home? And at the time, that wouldn't have happened. And so, thank God that he was working on her behalf, and that she got the opportunity she did, and that I get to stay connected to see her happy and healthy, and that right there keeps me going.
Yeah, and like you said, those are difficult choices. I never lost my kids because of my use. And I've never really known whether that was the best thing for them or not. But knowing my kids today, after over 5 years of being in recovery, I'm proud of who they are. And of course, our experiences lead us to who we are today. And every one of my kids are amazing people. So I don't regret anything. I'm grateful that during my use I never hurt them. I never caused them any serious traumas or physical trauma. Of course, they are affected by my use. I did a documentary with my daughter, and she discusses how it affected her. Also, in the first season, my wife at the time and I did an interview with her where she explained what it was like for her growing up, and then she asked us some difficult questions. And I'll tell you, those questions were hard to answer,
I can only imagine.
But it's something that I think is great to when you can honestly take an honest look back at the situation and really hold yourself accountable for the things you need to be accountable for, accept the truth for what it was, and notice your growth. There were times that I wish things weren't going on, but when I look at those and then look at where I'm at today, I'm pretty impressed you know. So I can't take that away from myself. I definitely can't take it away from any of my kids either, for the growth that they've experienced. But at one time we did decide to leave my second son in Massachusetts with some family members. And at the time it felt like, you know, of course he was my little buddy, I was gonna miss him, but I was happy to know that he was not going to be involved with what I was doing anymore.
Yeah.
You know, so I was happy for him to have that experience. And you know, today he's a Marine. He's doing great. He's got a house down in North Carolina, and you know, I couldn't be more proud of the success he's had. You know, and we have a great relationship today. Now that you know, he knows what I've been through, and you know, seeing the growth that I've had.
Right.
So
That's great.
So what else is going on in your life today that you don't think you would have been able to do?
Yeah, I think today I have an amazing relationship with the community and my family that for a long time I thought was not possible. I thought I had lost touch with that, and now I get to do things and be involved with you know, watching people heal and being a part of helping them to find that way, you know, and it's just it's crazy.
Yeah. And right now you're taking the Recovery Coach Academy.
Yep.
So you're going to give back and help others in the community you're in now, which of course I can appreciate everyone that decides to do that, because we can't do this alone, and we don't have to when there's people like you and others that, you know, will use your experience to help somebody else.
Right.
You know, it's a hard thing to do on our own. You know, I'm grateful that I didn't have to. I had a recovery coach guiding me to where I needed to be, and you know, it's just such a valuable resource. I know you're going to be working at the First Mile Active Recovery Center. And Ryan, you're facilitating an NA meeting at the center here at Fort Kent. What day is that meeting?
So that's Thursday nights at 7 o'clock, and that's here at the Recovery Center.
And that's Fort Kent's first NA meeting.
It is.
You know, for so long there was an AA meeting one a week, and then nothing else really offered to the community for support. So, you know, immediately you're adding to the resources that this community needs.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for your work and sharing your experience, and you know, good luck to you. Keep going with it, and we'll definitely stay in touch.
Thank you, Mike. So I'd just like to say that it's important for people to be aware that addiction is a disease. It exists in a brain stem, the same one that is responsible for heartbeat and for breathing. So an addict or an alcoholic feels as if they need it to survive, just like they need air to breathe. So the stigma, it's easy for people to assume that it's a choice, but it's not a choice. It's maybe initially it's a choice, but it becomes a manifestation of a disease. So it's something that needs to be treated and needs a lot of outside help. And it's important that they feel safe enough to be able to ask for that help.
When I fall, I know I'm strong enough to get back on my feet, even though it might be tough. And if I lose sight of the good in my life, I'll just take a deeper look inside of my mind. Yes, I traveled down this road before, 'cause nothing's new to me. I've seen a million things that a man should never see, but I wish that I could understand why I've masqueraded myself with this pain. If I could just find the solution, then everything that I know might change. but it's a new day for me, and I know I'll make it through. When I fall, I know I'm strong enough to get back on my feet, even though it might be tough. And if I lose sight of the good in my life, I'll just take a deeper look inside of my mind. 'Cause I know that I can do what's right. Oh, I don't mean to seem like I'm just feeling bad for myself, and my intentions weren't to mention this to anyone else. It's just I need to vent a little to get this out of my head, instead of sitting inside of my sinister mind and just letting the madness spread. 'Cause it's a new day for me, and I know I'll make it through. When I fall, I know I'm strong enough to get back on my feet, even though it might be tough. And if I lose sight of the good in my life, I'll just take a deeper look inside of my mind. Can't you see I try so hard?